Hello everybody, Austin Becker here again, and today I wanted to do a video that's a little bit different than my typical style of videos. I wanted to actually create a video on living in Fargo and being the fact that I've been here now for a full year. So this video is actually titled Living in Fargo, an honest review after 365 days. And I think you guys are gonna want to stick around because this is gonna have a lot of different pictures, different clips within the video to kind of break it up, as well as just some things that I've noticed that are both positive and negative things that I've noticed since I've been here for a full year now. So first off, let's talk about kind of me just moving here. So a little bit of background. So I lived in Alexandria, Minnesota for 20 years before moving here. So I moved here back actually last year in October 2020. It's now going to be October of 2021. I'm actually making this video in September, but I wanted to have it ready to go for October 1st for you guys. So first move ever out of the house was basically, looking at different places and stuff, decided to actually move to West Fargo because I found a place that was very affordable for what you got. And also it was the best decision for me. I didn't, mind having to drive a little bit farther to places, across town or whatever. It's the last exit off the interstate, which is kind of nice. Makes it really easy. So we'll kind of talk about, again, just the different things that I've noticed being here, but also the community that's within Fargo, as well as Moorhead and the whole West Fargo area as well. And so first off, to kind of add to the background that I was just saying, I haven't been up here a lot, like at all. When I was younger, I was here for a few different small activities and stuff like that within school, but very limited access to the Fargo area just because I never had a family that was this direction, and so we never came this direction and just really didn't make sense to. And so took some time, kind of by myself as well as with my parents to kind of see this area before I actually moved here and, made the decision to do it. It was never some place that I even envisioned myself coming to necessarily, especially North Dakota, but I did. I will say this, like right off the bat, if you guys don't get anything else from this conversation, like it is 100% true that Fargo is flat and it's definitely windy. It's a bit windy here. Yep, like that windy. And it's definitely more scenic than I expected. I will say that, a lot of people kind of give this area a lot of crap because they think that it's very boring. And, honestly, there's certain parts of it that are, but if you really look at the whole overall aspect of things, and how many parks there are, it's pretty incredible actually how much is in this community. There is actually over 150 parks just within the, basically span of about, 15 miles or whatever it is around this area. Some are bigger, some are smaller, stuff like that. But I personally love a lot of the parks that are here. I've been to probably over half them for sure. My favorite being Island Park, which is actually the one that's very close to downtown, very close to Dyke East Park, if you guys are ever in Fargo. And there's a lot of mature trees in that park, as well as just around that area and stuff. And actually, if you ever get the chance to, and you guys are into like historic or like antique type stuff, or like very like homes with a lot of like character in them, do yourselves a favor and drive down like 8th Street and different streets that are close to the downtown area. Personally, I think it's the coolest aspect of Fargo. That's just me, because it's amazing to see all the different houses. I mean, a lot of them are, basically from like millionaires that, lived back in the early 1900s and stuff. A lot of these houses are just huge, and they're filled with all these different, basically just incredible like woodworking and stuff like that. And so it's super cool to see that. And speaking of driving around, I want to say that, driving around here has actually been very easy. I was kind of surprised actually by that because being in a, a little bigger city, right? So Fargo itself is about 120,000. You add on Moorhead, West Fargo, it's, close to 180, 200,000, something like that. And for me, I currently drive a, manual right now car, so stick. And it hasn't been that hard. I think that the way that the city is laid out is kind of like a big square. And so it makes it nice because, there's a lot of major roadways, a lot of side streets, and even, one ways, which is kind of weird because I wasn't really used to that before, that it makes it easy to get across town, whether you want to take something that's more fast or, a little bit more slow and just something different. So next thing I kind of want to talk about is that there's definitely a big support system here revolving around kind of NDSU and, MSUM, the other colleges and stuff like that, Concordia, around this area, but especially NDSU, right, in the Fargo area, because that's kind of the main thing here is that that's a big attraction. The Fargo Domain right there is a big attraction that, hosts all the Bison's games. There's a lot of things revolving around the football aspect. Like there's a lot of things that go around with like the tailgating, which I actually went to one this year, which is kind of interesting. But apart from that, it's even just, things like the Red Hawks have a game here, which is in their Newman Outdoor Field, which is a very nice stadium. I was in there once. As well as just, having a lot of community get-togethers and activities. They have a lot of like farmers markets and things like that in the mornings and stuff, which is pretty cool. Brings a lot of people. Lots of different, volunteer activities and stuff like that, community big events. I know companies like Shields, host big events and stuff like that too here because they're a big part of Fargo. This is actually their, corporate office is here. And just, things like that where, again, they try to keep people involved even if it is a little bit of a less scenic city, so to speak. So, but I will say, like, you do have to be a bit creative as far as, like, keeping yourself occupied here because I'm more of an outdoorsy person. I mean, I like to be involved with, like, biking and, snowmobiling, skiing, stuff like that. And so being here was a change as far as, you can still go biking. You can still go for, like, a run. You can still, check out, like, the downtown shops, which is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of different things down there that are pretty unique and interesting. But, and honestly, even if you're bored, like, if you're at all into like hunting or fishing, like Fargo is actually not that bad a place to be for that either because, for example, with like fishing, I wasn't really into river fishing as much because I grew up around a lot of lakes, right? So I was always used to being on the boat or on the dock or whatever. And river fishing has made it very interesting to me because you learn a lot about better ways to fish as well as just like different methods to use to kind of, study the whole areas of the river that are here, basically following some of the dams, stuff like that, to where you can really catch some interesting stuff. And there's a lot of things in the rivers, but like honestly, if you're into catching big catfish or smallmouth bass, stuff like that, whatever stuff, like fish in Fargo. There's definitely, big fish in here. There's a lot of catfish, especially. They're actually pretty renowned around here for that. So second thing, so winter. That's always a season people kind of disregard up here because they prefer the summer for sure, and you can tell. It's very evident by people too that they're not big into winter, even though that they all embrace it kind of like Minnesota does. And honestly, I'm a big winter person. I mean, I do enjoy all the different winter activities. And so, when snow is on the ground, they do offer opportunities for skiing, fat biking, ice skating, stuff like that here, which is great. And actually, speaking of ice skating, they have a lot of wonderful outdoor rinks as well as just indoor stuff for people. They have a lot of different, again, like community events revolve around that. But I know downtown they have for sure an ice rink, and then they have, like I said, there's several across all the different parks. My favorite is actually one of theirs close by NDSU Roosevelt Park. They have two big rinks out there for people to play, and it's super fun. People will be out there from all ages, playing hockey or doing whatever. So I got to do that a lot last winter, which I really enjoyed. Speaking of last winter, it was definitely cold, and the best way to describe this area versus like Alexandria where I was, or even other parts of Minnesota for that matter, is like if you don't like snow, you'd probably like Fargo, because the wind just kind of blows it around a lot, and it doesn't really stay as, you know, accumulated in one spot. So I'm a person that likes to enjoy the snow. So for me, having that aspect, like, it's definitely more windy, and there's just, it feels like there's less snow up here, right? So that's kind of the big thing when it comes to the winter. Another thing on just the community aspect of things, people here are actually very nice for the most part. I've, you know, ran into very few people that are not that nice to be around. Are they a little bit more on the countryside? You know, do people lean more conservative? Yes. And I'm not, you know, again, I'm not going to throw anything in here about like the political stuff. I'm just saying that's just how I perceive things when I've been here and stuff. And, you know, there's a lot more, I think, you know, of like the Christian aspect too in this area, which again isn't for everybody, but I'm just saying, I mean, at least people know if you guys are watching this to kind of get a perspective of, you know, do I want to move to this area, right? I will say that from other adults that I've spoken to, as well as just students in college, things like that, like the income tax, the different taxes you have to pay on things, the rent cost, everything else, like if you're looking at moving based strictly just on like money, then Fargo is probably a good option for you, because like I know North Dakota has some really good systems as far as their cost basis for a lot of things, whether that's anything from your car insurance to your, you know, rent cost to, like I said, just different things across the board. The community overall has been very safe. It's, you know, felt very quiet for the most part. I really haven't, you know, maybe with the exception of being downtown, but again, that's like way late at night. It's definitely a comfortable, bigger city. So last aspect, kind of about some of the activities type stuff or things that draw people here. If you're a big wine or beer drinker, Fargo has a lot, and I mean a lot, of really good options for you. There's a lot of places rolling around, you know, drinking or alcohol here that they, you know, support a very wide system of, you know, brewing operations and different wineries and different, you know, there's even like a cider place that's been, you know, growing like crazy. So there's a lot of opportunities for stuff like that. Now, for me, I'm personally not a big drinker, which makes it interesting into my next point, which is trying to make and keep friends or connections when you're here, right? I think that's a very big thing, is that you're going to find, and that's in any new community when you move to it, is that you want to be able to get into a support system and networking of, you know, people that are either similar age or similar interest, whatever the case. And doing your first move as an adult is hard, especially if you're going to a new city, you really don't know that many people, which I didn't. But that's hard regardless. But for me, Fargo was even a little bit more difficult on top of that, just because, again, while it is not that far away from Alexandria, it's about, you know, an hour, 45 minutes. It's difficult due to the aspect of, again, that I'm very outdoorsy. I like certain activities, certain mindsets of things. You know, I'm business oriented in some aspects, whatever and stuff. And it was hard for me initially, and it even still is in some aspects, to kind of have and keep those connections that really speak to me. I think that, you know, like you can still, you know, working to know like your coworkers is a good thing to do. Consider, you know, getting involved with like a church or like volunteer group here, or, you know, just even look at opportunities again for like things in like the park. You know, if you're, again, more of the outdoorsy type, like look at like the Parks and Rec site. They have a lot of things for adult and kids activities. I will say that too, is that Fargo does seem like a phenomenal place to have a family, right? I think that there's a lot of people that have moved here with kids or that have kids here that really enjoy it, and I definitely see why. Like I said, there's a lot of parks, a lot of good schooling systems, so it seems, as well as just things that would attract families to come here. So I will say though that on the last note that I kind of want to talk to before my, you know, ending paragraph here, is that living in Fargo really has opened my eyes as far as it's really, again, I think people say this a lot, but it's honestly like it's really been, I think, the loneliest year that I've ever experienced. As far as, and I think part of that is due to COVID, part of it is due to just, you know, my mindset and interest level about certain things. But if you're not being occupied, and I think this is with any new location, if you move, is like, if you're not finding people or not being occupied or not busy after work all the time, you know, doing different things like that, it really starts to make you feel a certain way and have, you know, certain emotions, certain feelings about things. And it definitely can bring you into a dark space. So again, I would encourage people, and what's worked, you know, great for me is even going for like a drive, or, you know, again, going to try fishing, you know, doing different things to keep yourself occupied, busy, get yourself out of your place where you're staying, to kind of, you know, break free of that cycle. And so that, you know, brings me to my last point, which is, do I regret moving to Fargo? And I would say definitely not. I think that, you know, again, it's been a great place to move to, especially, you know, out of the gate. Now, would I consider staying in Fargo long term? Probably not. But I will say this. If I had a really fulfilling job and I really had a great group of friends, and I, you know, definitely, you know, had other things that were keeping me tied here, and I had, you know, the family aspect, whatever, was still close, and, you know, I got to still like travel, let's say, for my job, because honestly, I mean, who wants to be around, you know, the super flat stuff all the time? Like, that's, you know, that to me would be more of a positive thing, and I would definitely be more, you know, inclined to stay. But, you know, and honestly, like, even though Fargo is flat, like, there is a hidden beauty to kind of the whole flatness thing. Like, I mean, you can, you know, see literally, if you drive on 29, like, north to Grand Forks, like, you can literally see miles across the fields, like, just miles, which is actually kind of cool. I mean, it's like I said, there's kind of a hidden beauty to it, but you really have to kind of appreciate that. And honestly, like, even though there is kind of that coolness aspect, I guess, like, you'll still probably get bored. And so this is just kind of my take of, again, you know, living in Fargo for a full year now. I'm still going to be here yet for a little while. And, you know, Fargo is a much better area to live, honestly, than when I first anticipated and expected. And I think that, again, if you guys are looking for a place, you know, whether it's for college, for a new place to move, you know, whatever it is, like, this is a very viable option, I think, for a lot of people. And it's, you know, honestly, like I said, pretty affordable to live here. You know, like I said, people are pretty nice. You just got to, you know, kind of figure out, you know, what's kind of your scenario. That's the biggest thing. Like, is like, you look at your scenario and say, like, okay, does Fargo, that area, you know, even anywhere in Minnesota too, like, does that fit your scenario before you decide to live here? Or like, does that, you know, align with your interests, passions, things like that, to kind of, you know, make that decision better for you. So with that, hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And again, I'm hoping to make more videos and different things like that. And but I was really just hoping to give you guys this update video, because I think it's important to me, and I think that it benefits a lot of you guys, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Anyway, so with that, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great rest of the week, and keep smiling.